think she was disillusioned with show business. And I don't know anything about show business, but I think I get to the point where she says that you have the adulation when she's done these concerts, but you still come back to an empty house. I think she envied, no, envy's not the word, but I think she envied sort of people who had families. I think it's basically what she wanted.
In 1975, Jessie bought her last home, a 3-bedroom semi in Hatch End. With the Dales long dead, she was once again unwanted, but not completely forgotten. If you met people and if you told them that your neighbour was Jessie Matthews, what was the reaction?
Well, the older people were quite staggered. They used to ask me how I used to speak to her. And I said, well, I didn't curtsy, I just was normal with her. But it's surprising, a lot of people were quite surprised that she lived along here. A star living along sort of in a normal house.
Did she expect the adulation to continue?
I think she thought it always did. No, I don't think that worried her. Because even when she was no longer a big star, if you went into a restaurant with her, most of the men over 50 would stand up automatically and things like that. You know, she was still famous when she was no longer a star. When I mean a star is somebody who could sell seats.
We had a mutual agent, Vincent Shaw, and he gave a champagne party for all his clients. And Jessie came in, and it was a very strange moment. We kissed. It wasn't one of those darling theatrical kisses, you know, which it doesn't mean a thing. It meant something. And I was so overcome, but I had actually kissed her after feeling rather bitter for many, many years. I had to leave the party. I couldn't believe it. I had to leave the party early. It was strange. We didn't speak, we didn't talk about the old days or anything. It was just a genuine kiss of maybe forgiveness on my part and sorrow on hers, I don't know.
How many years later was that?
Oh, my goodness me, it must have been 30 years later. Yes. But then she still was Jessie. She still dominated, or still wanted to. Strange.
She knew who she could do it with, and I think possibly Nancy was one and I was another. She would ring at 6:30 in the morning. She would ring at 2 o'clock the next morning to chat. Very often you would ring her at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and she'd say, "I'm sorry, I'm having lunch. Ring back later." So it was a bit one-sided, but yes, one was expected to be there.
Did that happen to you?
Yes, it did, often. Yes, I was in bed and she would say, will you come down? And I would say, well, Jessie, I'm in bed. Do come, darling. And so I used to get up, get in the car and go down. But one did it quite happily, really, you know. I mean, you might have thought, oh, bother, but quite happily you would go, and because you knew that she needed you.
I think you were very aware of what it meant to her, I think, to be there
indeed,
when
yes.
she needed you.
Yes. Mm.
How did she treat her friends?
Don't know that she had many friends.
A lot of people did a lot of things for her, didn't they?
Yes, but that always happens with a star, doesn't it? You get lots of little people around them, you know, reflecting in the glory and living through them and things. And that's not really friendship, because when she ceased to be a star name, she was a very lonely lady.
In Hayfield school days, I hated boys. Those April fool days brought me loveless joys. I read my Plato, love I thought a sin. But since your kiss, I'm reading Mrs. Glynn.
staying with me in the country in Amersham. And one day she said, could I come over to the studios? I'd just like to go and have a smell of them again, sniff around. So she came, and I had to give her name in to the doorman always to say, oh, your guests are around, And she was Mrs. Lewis. And I didn't say who else she was. I said, hey, Mrs. Lewis will be arriving after lunch. Will you see that she gets to stage 3? So Mrs. Lewis came on. She was quite, not enormously fat, but quite fat in those days. She'd put on weight. She came on, she looked exactly like Jessie anyway, and she sat, and I put her in one of the artist's chairs, and she sat on the edge of the light, watching the shooting, Nothing was said. So somebody came over and twigged her. And very gradually, it went through the whole of Pinewood Studios that Jessie had come back and was on the floor. And people came from every single stage. Most of them were old technicians who had worked with her in the days of Gainsborough or elsewhere, at Elstree or wherever she worked. And they all came to pay court on her. She had a group of about 50 people around her. Floods of tears, of course.
In January 1981, Jessie was admitted to St Vincent's Hospital, Pinner, unaware that she was dying of cancer. Officially, she was a national health patient, but still commanding star treatment.
She had fads about food, certainly. When she was in here, I mean, there were certain things she liked and certain things she didn't like. And she liked things like smoked salmon and things, that, not an everyday diet. Oh, well, that used to be brought in the street. I remember anybody who came to see her knew, and they would bring her smoked salmon. Anton Derlin brought her smoked salmon one day. He said, what would you like? And if anyone asked over the phone what she would like, the answer I had to give was smoked salmon. And smoked salmon she got. And
Jessie rang me up afterwards, and she said, Vincent, do you know that smoked salmon that Pat brought me? I said, yes. She said, well, he told me it was £1 of smoked salmon, and I had it weighed after he left, and there was only 3/4.
Was she serious then?
Oh, very serious.
Jessie would always liked you to stay. She didn't want you to go home. She would keep you.
Getting away was very, very difficult.
Oh, very difficult.
We'd say we're going now. Can
Yes.
you just put that over there? Can you move that?
Yes,
Can we go
wanted
now?
you to
Would you
stay.
do that for me? And would keep you there for ages sometimes. She really
Yes.
didn't want you to go. I think perhaps fearing that it might be the last time, I think.
She went through a period where she was sure she would never sing again, that she had lost her voice. And we said, oh, no, you haven't. I'm sure if you try, you could sing. And that's really why we brought in just this little cassette recorder. And she sang into that.
We've got a lady here who used to sing.
Never know.
All right, go on. The words don't matter. Go on.
You went away, and my heart went with you. I speak your name in my every prayer. If there is some other way to prove that I love you, I swear I don't know how. You'll never know if you don't know now. You'll never know if you don't know.
I wasn't surprised. She was a very, very sick woman, very ill when she made that last will, and I knew she'd done something. I saw her that day. I went up to see her, took her this real Barbara Cartland bed jacket, all laces and ribbons, and she loved it. But she couldn't look at me, and I thought, you have been naughty. And so when the will sort of came out, I knew that was what it was. But it's fair comment. I was a disappointment to her, and she enjoyed my daughter so much, which pleased me, because I thought, well, at least, you know, you can have some pleasure there, which she did. But of course I could control that.
When I walk through the door, I don't now see her. I did perhaps for the first 6 months afterwards, but now I don't think of her in this room. I think of her away from the hospital, really, because she was basically, I know she had her sad moments, but she was very bubbly. You know, she was lovely.
And each happy scene will be evergreen as the sweetest morning in June. When you've got a little springtime in your heart, when you've got a little springtime in your heart. Over my shoulder goes one care, over my shoulder go two care. Why should I cry? It's too above. I'm free at last and I'm in love. Over my shoulder goes three care, over my shoulder goes four care. Bye-bye to trouble, it's gone beyond recall. Over my shoulder goes it all.
Following the first transmission of that programme, a plaque in memory of Jessie Matthews was erected in the grounds of the church where she is buried.